Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairwoman Napolitano, Chairman DeFazio, Ranking Member Graves, Ranking Member Westerman, and members of the committee for the opportunity to testify. My name is Catherine Coleman Flowers. I'm the Rural Development Manager for the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, Alabama. I'm also a practitioner in residence at the Franklin Humanities Institute at Duke University and a senior fellow at the Center for Earth Ethics and the founder of the Alabama Center for Rural Enterprise. I grew up in Lowndes County, Alabama, which is located along the route from Selma to Montgomery. As a child in the 1960s and 70s, I used an outhouse and a slop jar before my family eventually installed indoor plumbing. I left the area to achieve an education, and upon returning to Alabama in 2000, I was surprised at the disparities that still existed in rural wastewater treatment. Since 2002, I visited homes with wastewater failures at all levels. I first began meeting with people about this problem in the early 2000s as a pastor, a pregnant woman, and other members of the community were being threatened with or actually arrested for not being able to afford on-site wastewater treatment. Yes, it is a crime in this country if you could not afford wastewater treatment. Many of the community members had resorted to unpermitted alternate methods like straight piping to discharge raw sewage from their homes or disconnecting failing septic systems to keep the sewage from coming back into their homes. And while the arrests have decreased, the threat remains. I have visited homes with on-site systems that fail each time it rains and the sewage comes back into the homes either through the toilet, bathtub, or both. In one town, citizens pay a wastewater treatment fee, yet they still have sewage backing up into their homes and yards. Our neighborhood is bordered by a sewage lagoon, a cheap solution generally used in poor rural communities. In addition to the stench from the lagoon, their tanks must be pumped as often as 3 times a week to remove sewage from their yards or their homes. Children are unable to play in their yards due to raw sewage on the ground. This is not what people expect to see in the United States. In 2009, I was bitten by mosquitoes swarming a pool of raw sewage. My body broke out in a rash that doctors could not identify. I later reached out to Dr. Peter Hotez of the National School of Tropical Medicine in Texas, which culminated in a peer-reviewed study that was published in 2017. This study found that over 30% of Lowndes County residents tested were found to have hookworm and other tropical parasites long thought to have been eradicated in the United States. Inadequate wastewater is not just a Lowndes County or an Alabama problem. Inadequate wastewater treatment. It is estimated that more than 20% of the country uses on-site wastewater treatment, reaching 40% or more in areas in large rural populations. Up to half of the septic systems in the U.S. don't work properly or fail at some point. By some estimates, 60% of the land in the U.S. cannot support septic systems. It is time for Congress to act to address this widespread problem, beginning with acknowledging the problem more broadly, gathering more information, especially through the census, and eliminating policies that criminalize residents for being unable to afford wastewater treatment. In addition, I invite all of you to visit Lowndes County so you can witness the problem firsthand, but also talk to your own rural constituents, because some of these same problems are in all rural areas. Congress should further use its oversight powers to ensure that investments in addressing this problem are meaningful. Specifically, it is critical that funding should take into account the realities of climate change, community input, and the unique geography of an area. Funding must also go to those who need it most and cannot afford wastewater treatment or upgrades without assistance. And finally, if federal funding is used to continue to design and permit failing systems, the state entities that approve these systems should be held accountable instead of the individual homeowners. The Clean Water State Revolving Fund is an excellent tool to help communities with much needed wastewater upgrades, but to truly be effective, it needs the flexibility to reach the people who need it the most. Rural communities should no longer be left behind. Congress must begin addressing this problem now while also looking at technological solutions for the new future of wastewater. If we can treat wastewater in outer space, it is not unrealistic to see a time when one can go to a hardware store and purchase an on-site wastewater treatment system. This is an opportunity to remove the shame associated with discussing wastewater treatment failures and instead focus on sustainable solutions that provide meaningful investment. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and I look forward to answering any questions.
Thank you very much for your testimony.